Welcome to Front Office Pros. Just recently, we had a few videos as it relates to the draft. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out right now. We did a 2024 rookie mock draft, Superflex edition, and then before that, we did a redraft of the 2023 rookie class. And if we had the opportunity to draft them now, what would we do? Well, in this video, we're combining both of them. It's the 2023 class versus the 2024. And Joe and I are here to tell you who our top 12 players are.
Hike!
All right, Joe. So who is number one between the war of 2023 versus 2024?
Yeah, my number one spots. I'm going to stick with CJ Stroud. I really like him. I think he's an absolute stud at the quarterback position. And when you find your guy at the quarterback position, I think it's valuable enough to keep him here at one over some of the new hotness coming out in this 2024 draft, like Marvin Harrison Jr., Caleb Williams, or any of those quarterbacks. He looks like a sure thing. And I always like when I can see the guy play in the NFL, know his situation, and just expect CJ Stroud to continue to grow from here.
Yeah, so for my number one, I'm going to go with running back Bijan Robinson. I think that type of running back that Bijan is a dying breed in the NFL. You're seeing more multiple running back sets happening in the NFL. Bijan is an all-purpose back. He can do the receiving and the rushing. In my view, he could have a similar trajectory as a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who's kind of beat the odds, if you will. He's an older running back, but he's still playing at a high clip. So for me, he's a generational running back, and so that's why I have him number one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we both like the fact that Arthur Smith is gone too, and he should get more action going forward as well.
Yeah, still waiting on the head coach, but more than likely it should be good news for him. How about number two for you, Joe?
Yeah, number two, again, kind of sticking with the theme of the redraft at this point that we did, and going to go with Anthony Richardson. And I saw enough out of him before he got hurt that I like his fantasy upside as well. And I keep him here and like the upside, over some of the other prospects that are coming in this rookie draft here.
So for number two for me, I'm going to agree with you. I got Anthony Richardson as well. I think the potential is off the charts. We talked about that most recently. I believe he missed one game, then he got injured in two games. But the two games he did play, he was a QB1 on the week. I mean, he was really, really good. And Steichen was the mastermind in Philadelphia, we've discovered. So to me, I really like the pairing between the two of them. I think Richardson's sophomore season could be bright. Question is, can he stay healthy? But I'm still going to take the risk.
That's the one risk, but we saw enough otherwise that when this guy plays, he's electric and he's going to be a great fantasy player.
How about number three? We sticking with 2023 class, or we shifting to 2024?
Nope, shifting it up to the rookies. Got Marvin Harrison Jr. at number three here. He was my number one guy in the rookie draft rankings, so I got him slotted here at number three.
Yeah, so for number three, I'm going to go with CJ Stroud. Sticking with the 2023 class, Stroud, in my view, just absolutely crushed expectations. Did not think he or the Houston Texans were going to be as good as they were. And really with not the best weapons either. He really made Nico Collins and Tank Dell into some really, really great players. He helped his football team ascend to a new level. That just shows his leadership even at his young age. He's a safe option for me. I almost thought about going a different direction, but he's too safe not to go three.
Yeah, I agree. He's a safe option and should just continue to grow with those young receivers that he's got.
How about for number four for you?
Yeah, number four, I've got Puka Nacua slotted here. Back to the redraft of the 2023 there, but yeah, hard not to go. I considered going Puka ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr., but just like the prospects, and Harrison Jr. is 1 year younger, and hard not to like what Puka was able to do and expect him to keep growing in his sophomore year with Stafford at quarterback.
We're early yet. This is us projecting forward, and you and I both believe very much in landing spots. Does
Right.
that change for you? Like, let's say Marvin Harrison goes to the Patriots. Does Puka then, jump Marvin Harrison Jr. at that point? Or you feel like regardless of where Marvin Harrison Jr. goes, the prospect is he looks so promising that you're going to put him over Puka regardless?
Yeah, that's tough because I believe Marvin Harrison Jr. is a generational talent. But I do trust in the landing spot. I think if he did go to a team like the Patriots, or somebody that doesn't have a great quarterback, it's just hard to trust. I would probably, you were right. I would put Puka ahead of him at that point. Because I just don't, the Patriots haven't been able to hit on, wide receivers, even though it's hard to go wrong with Marcus Harrison Jr., but I just don't think they know how to develop them and everything else. Time that could change as well. Don't have Belichick there anymore. We'll see who they bring in the offense, but McDaniel's system was just really complicated to get a hold of, and it's always kind of been the Patriots' way. And I feel like it was tough for rookies to grasp.
So for number 4, for me, I'm going to go with quarterback Caleb Williams. I almost had Caleb Williams ahead of CJ Stroud because I really like his ceiling. But the problem is I think his floor is pretty low. Based on the different stories that have come out about this guy, I just question whether he can be a leader of men in the NFL locker room.
Now you're questioning this.
Well, I'm just putting it out there that I said I have a question on it. It doesn't mean I necessarily believe it. I'm validating your concerns because that's a resounding concern for you.
Yes.
For me, it's a minor concern.
Okay.
But I think it's a resounding one for you. When it comes to Caleb Williams, it also makes me nervous how he performs so poorly against top 25 AP teams. You got to be able to beat good teams. You got teams like the Cowboys and the Dolphins. They just can't, make it to the next level. Now, Caleb Williams could be a great fantasy quarterback, maybe not as a good NFL quarterback. You've talked about that before as well. Mm-hmm. I just think that I couldn't put him above Stroud because, you would have hoped that Caleb Williams would have the type of season that Stroud did. So for me, it's hard to put Caleb ahead of him. I think he's got a lot of potential, but I think Stroud's got to put him ahead of him.
Yeah. To your point, that the one selling point for me on Stroud before he was drafted was watching him against Georgia, which everyone considered an NFL defense, and Ohio State played the best against them. CJ Stroud, threw for a ton of yards in that game and looked really good. So that's what kind of sold me and gave me the confidence that he was going to be the best quarterback out of the class.
How about number 5 for you, Joe?
Number 5, I'm going to go with Sam Laporta as my number 5, and just sticking with that tight end position and being a difference maker. And it's hard to go wrong with, what Sam Laporta did in his rookie year, and just expecting more things out of him moving forward.
A heavy 2023 class from you, Joe. Not surprised. You usually like the guys who've already been established versus the prospects in the future. And for our audience here, we are thinking about these rankings in the form of tight end premium as well. So there is a thought to be had here, is that because of Laporta and the tight end premium scoring, I could totally understand why you have him there. So for number 5 for me, I got wide receiver Marvin Harrison. If this wasn't a Superflex ranking as well, I probably would have Marvin Harrison number 2 after Bijan. I think Marvin Harrison, I'm not saying he's the same type of player, but it's reminiscent to me of Calvin Johnson when he came into the league out of Georgia Tech. I believe he was drafted number 2 in the draft. Could see a similar thing happen to Marvin Harrison. He's 6'4". He's a big-bodied guy. He's got the bloodlines. I would be really surprised if Marvin Harrison is a miss. He's just a very athletic player. And Ohio State's honestly a wide receiver factory. Every year it seems like they're producing wide receivers left and right, and he might be the best of the bunch. So I think he's a can't-miss prospect at this point.
Yeah, he's definitely a different body type of the bunch. We had the elite route runners and the smaller guys, kind of the JSN or a Garrett Wilson type guy. But Marvin Harrison, like you mentioned, he's the big guy. You just throw jump balls to him, and he already showed off his body control and the catches he's able to make.
All right, Joe. So who do you got for number 6? We're halfway through almost.
Yep. Well, as you mentioned, Superflex. So gonna have a run on quarterbacks here, and a number 6. Gonna go with the top quarterback I had in the rookie draft rankings, and go with Jaden Daniels. I know he's risky pick. That's why I was more confident putting some of those other proven guys ahead of him there. Kind of like you mentioned, he definitely is a risky pick, but like his rushing upside to give you kind of that floor, and he's got a ceiling with what he can do with his arm as well.
If you had to, I don't know, this might be a hard thing for you to say, but is there a certain quarterback he reminds you of that you could say that he would, a comp or a player that you think that he can be similar to from a fantasy perspective?
Kind of hard. I mean, I think just what he can do with his legs. I mean, kind of reminds me of like a Lamar Jackson type guy, or even Michael Vick to say. Just he's very talented and gifted with what he can do with his legs, but not to say that he can't make plays with his arm. He might have to evolve his game, kind of like Lamar Jackson did. Now you see Lamar taking less chances with his legs, stays in the pocket a little bit more. But I mean, Lamar, when he first came to the league, was absolutely electric, and I think this guy could have a similar impact.
Well, he had that one game. I think he was playing an SEC opponent. And he had over like 200 rushing yards or something like that. I mean, honestly, that single-handedly that game was almost like his Heisman winning game. It seemed like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think. I mean, it's tough to say that a guy is going to be a Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson, but I mean, I think those guys just with his athletic ability come to mind.
So at number 6, I'm going to go with an LSU Tiger, but a different one than you, and that's going to be wide receiver Malik Neighbors. This guy has got me really excited, Joe. You mentioned this the other day when we were talking about him. His explosiveness is off the charts. I mean, when this guy gets the ball, he's an absolute jet. He almost kind of reminds me, maybe I'm wrong about this comparison, but he's kind of like a Debo, almost Jamar Chase kind of, I don't know, kind of mixture. I don't know. Like he just has that explosiveness, but he's also that yard after catch ability. So I don't know. I think he can be a really, really talented player. He's the next. I just think he has the potential, in my view, to be in that tier 1 of dynasty receivers, 2-3 years after he's, been in the league. I think this guy's ceiling is immense.
Yeah, it really is. And, we've already seen what happens with these LSU receivers when they get to the league. I mean, they usually excel. LSU is another just one of those schools that have just been a wide receiver factory. And yeah, you said it. I mean, his breakout ability and what he can do after the catch is just special.
All right, Joe, who do you got for number 7?
Yep, and number 7, I'm going with Drake May. He was my number 2 quarterback in the rookie ranking, so got him slotted here at number 7.
Yeah, and I'll be talking about him a little bit later, so I'll hold my thoughts there. But I don't totally understand the pick. Curious to see where he ends up going. I think that could have quite the bearing. It's, but hey,
Yeah.
look, I mean, Houston didn't have much to offer, and we saw what CJ Stroud was able to do.
Yeah, I feel like they got the right coordinator coming over from San Fran, and I really believe CJ Stroud was the most NFL ready guy and produced right away in his rookie year.
So for number 7, I've got wide receiver Puka Nacua. So a little bit later than you, Joe. Puka, you're a big Puka fan. I like Puka, but I'm just I'm reluctantly putting him there. I just the body of work is just too strong to overlook. And so long as Matthew Stafford is there, this guy is going to continue to perform. I think Cooper Kupp, passed the baton to him. I think he is now the bona fide receiver in that offense. Just watching them play. I just wonder if Puka is quarterback proof because once Stafford's gone, I could see McVay gone, Donald gone. Rams could be kind of a dumpster fire. So from a dynasty standpoint, I'm a little worried about that, but at this point, I felt like I had to slot him here.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance to be quarterback proof just because I think he's such a good route runner and he's just got an ability to get in open space. I think with the right coordinator, Puka reminds me of another Debo type guy. He's just so tough to bring down. That's why I think he could be quarterback proof because all you need to do is just hit him on an in-breaking route or a slant and he could take it the distance.
All right, Joe, what do you got for number 8?
At number 8, I finally have your guy, Caleb Williams. Eve. I know you're probably wondering where I was going to have him. But like I said, there's going to be run-on quarterbacks. Being this is super flex, there's the top 3 guys right in a row. Yeah, Caleb Williams, I think he's going to be a way better fantasy quarterback than an actual one in real life. And I definitely have all those questions about it. Can he lead an NFL locker room with grown men in there?
And Joe's advice would be to you, for those out there, is to not draft Caleb Williams. without saying too much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can draft him. I wouldn't take him too high though, because like I said, his fantasy upside is there. But does him not being a very good NFL quarterback limit the amount of years he's going to play? I mean, that could be.
But the reality is, in most dynasty leagues, if we were to take a poll, I doubt he gets out of the top 3 in almost 95%.
Right, and I would not take him top 3.
Right, so he's a guy you would just pass because you agree with me, right? Like he's going to go in the top 3 in most drafts.
Oh yeah, he's just so hyped up, and wait till he throws absolute bombs and shorts in his pro day and looks great, and it's all scripted. And then he's going to be a top 3 pick in the actual NFL draft, and everyone's going to hype him and go crazy. And yeah, he'll be a top 3 pick in Dynasty all day.
Yeah, and who knows, Joe? Maybe he might have a good Wonderlic score too.
Yeah, we saw how much that matters, man. I told you I did not care about CJ Stroud. So you see now that they're trying to basically put that test to the side now and say, oh, they read it wrong or something with CJ Stroud's. Now that he actually came out
sure, because it wasn't Wonderlic, it was something else. I can't think of it.
Yeah, I forget. It was that other test that you were telling me that I didn't care about.
Yeah, but yeah, they probably in some trouble because they're like, well, we thought this Bryce Young was a high scorer, and CJ Stroud wasn't. So what does that mean?
Yeah, well, nobody was surprised that Bryce Young scored so high because everyone all talked about his fast processing and how he had it. It didn't show up on the NFL this year, but who knows? That maybe a different offensive coordinator, Bryce looks better.
Yeah, so for number 8, I'm going to go with quarterback Drake May. You just talked about him recently, Joe. I like May a lot. He's a guy who's grown over time for me. I think he has a huge ceiling. I know it's super flex. I do think he's sort of risky. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Josh Allen, the way that he ends up a play breaks down, he goes, but then he's kind of unorthodox and he'll be able to kind of throw it in places that you wouldn't. Reminiscent of the playoff game, I couldn't believe it. Josh Allen was running and all of a sudden threw it like this to Ty Johnson for first down. I was like, wow, how did he even see that? I see something like that with him. It's really going to depend on the coaching staff around him, in my view.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the problem with all these rookies. I feel like, especially for the quarterback development, though, you really have to go to a team and an offensive coordinator that has a plan and can orchestrate some things, because we just too many times I feel like quarterback talent is wasted because teams just take a guy because they believe in him, but then they don't have the coaching staff and the ability to develop these guys, and that's really what they need.
So who do you got for number 9?
At number 9, I've got Bijan Robinson, at number 9 here. Would have put him up earlier, but I just don't believe in, the running back position going early in the dynasty drafts. Just don't think you get that long-term investment. I'd rather invest it in a quarterback or wide receiver, being that those guys play in the league a lot longer.
It's a little bit of a hot take from you there, Joe. I mean, for a lot of people out there in dynasty and just fantasy in general, running back is king. If you have a running back, you got to go get him. I mean, obviously Bijan was the consensus number 1. Guys were hyping him up left and right, and Gibbs obviously had his own hype down the stretch. So for you, it's really just a longevity aspect. Do you feel like these wide receivers and quarterbacks, you could basically get more value for your dollar?
Yeah, that's really what it boils down to. I mean, Bijan Robinson is extremely talented. So is Jahmyr Gibbs, who I'll be talking about shortly here. But yeah, it's really just it. NFL stands for not for long, and it applies to the running back positions. A lot of them, don't play too far past their rookie contracts, where you see quarterbacks play, 10 plus years, and wide receivers can play 10 plus years as well. So I just feel like, to take in a first round pick, you really get the better return on your investment for the more longer term players.
I thought NFL meant no fun league.
It also can mean that as well. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can spin that, but it for sure is a no fun league as well.
Oh boy, we're not going to get on the train of talking about
No, we
penalties.
should not.
Okay, we're going to have to be a whole.
That'd have to be another podcast. I mean, I
Yeah.
can just keep going about that. But
Oh, absolutely. So for number 9, I'm going to go with tight end Sam Laporta. Joe, I'll give you credit on this one. He was your top tight end heading into the class last year. I had Kincaid higher, but it's hard to deny what Laporta did. I think I read too much into the fact that I felt like the Lions didn't use T.J. Hawkinson enough, so they go ahead and trade Hawkinson to then replace him with Laporta. So in my view, it's like, well, what are they going to do? And I think it was more so cap related that they weren't wanting to spend the money for Hawkinson, and they wanted to hit the reset button on the position. And now Laporta is, performing, fantastically. It'll be interesting. Goff has done really well. I question, is Goff going to get a major extension? They obviously drafted Hendon Hooker. Do I think Goff is the guy who could ultimately let Detroit Lions win a championship? Are they going to be in like playoff purgatory? I don't know. That could have, depending on who the quarterback is, it has a huge bearing on the offense and the offensive weapons and how good they are at Dynasty. Right now, really like what Laporta is with Goff. Just don't know what I think about the future there.
Yeah, back to your point about Hawkinson, though. Besides the fact that it was just possibly a cap thing, the Lions started to not really use Hawkinson for whatever
they
reason.
weren't.
So I could see your concern there. And then all of a sudden Laporta gets there and they're like, oh yeah, we actually got a plan for this guy and we're actually going to use him. So that was kind of interesting. As far as Jared Goff, I think the Lions will keep them because over these last 3 years with Dan Campbell and this new regime, it's all been just stay the course and trust the process. And, Jared Goff has got him to the championship game right now. And I think they might just stay the course on this team and believe in him and stick with him and possibly give him that extension.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible. I mean, it's not like they have too much promise otherwise, and they're going to be drafting late. So, it would be tough for them to pick a quarterback at this point. So who do you got for number 10?
All right, at pick 10, got another running back, and going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs at number 10 here. Like Bijan Robinson, he's just really shown out, and I love his explosiveness and his ability he's so shifty and create those big plays. Even though he shares a backfield with David Montgomery, he still gets some carries in the goal line and makes plays in the receiving game as well, which is another plus.
Yeah, for number 10 for me, I'm also going Jahmyr Gibbs at number 10. Like you said, it's very explosive. I think a lot of fantasy managers might have panicked early on because of his lack of usage. I was one. I didn't own him. I wanted to own him. I didn't have him in any leagues. But early on there, it was like, what are the Lions doing? They're not using this guy at all. It was really until the David Montgomery injury that allowed him to really get a prominent role. And then it's always been a 1A, 1B scenario. What makes you have Bijan over Gibbs at this point? I mean, I know you like how explosive Gibbs is. I feel like you almost like Gibbs better as a player than Bijan. So I know you rated it before, but I just curious what's the difference between the two for you?
Yeah, honestly, when I was looking at it today, I was actually, I wanted to put Gibbs over Bijan.
I was going to say.
I was just sticking with the rankings that I had before, though, and was just applying them in a similar fashion. But it's really close. I just like what I've seen out of Jahmyr Gibbs. Not that I didn't like what I saw out of Bijan Robinson either, but I just feel like Detroit might have a better pulse on what to do with Jahmyr Gibbs, where Bijan, the new coaching staff and everything, there's a lot of unseen there and questions at the quarterback position as well. So his situation's a little murkier to me.
So who do you got for number 11?
Number 11, this is where I've got Malik Neighbors. We talked about this guy. Really like his explosiveness and physical ability, especially what he can do after the catch as well. As you and I kind of talked about earlier when you talked about him.
In my view, this is way too late. I understand you got some of the players ahead of time. You had your reasoning. I just think this guy's big play potential is just too much to pass up. I'm surprised you have him this low.
Yeah, I think, depending on, this is another guy, like depending on where he goes, I could shift him higher. It just,
That's fair.
I really like his talent. I just feel like the unknown and wide receivers just is such a quarterback dependent position and situation dependent that it's kind of where I've got him slotted now. And being this is super flex, I like some of the other quarterbacks higher as well than him.
I mean, that's completely fair. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think for both of us was a top receiver heading in the 2023 class. And he went to Seattle, which was not an ideal landing spot. He was third fiddle on the offense, behind DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. He did still get his, but it really took a while for him to be involved in the offense. And he's still kind of third fiddle. Now, had he gone to maybe the Bills or the Chiefs or something, obviously he would have been a lot different story. But we didn't see that happen. So you're right. I do think landing spot does matter quite a bit.
Yeah, to me it does. Like you said, I mean, JSN's a perfect example. Really liked his talent, thought he was the best in the class, but go there and you already got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. There's not, limits the opportunities JSN can have in his rookie year.
Number 11, I'm going to be going with wide receiver Rome Odunze. I think this guy's very talented, Joe. I even saw recently in Dino Jeremiah's mock draft, I think he had Rome Odunze ahead of Neighbors, if I'm not mistaken, which I
see. A decent amount of people do, to be honest with you. Yeah. I'm kind of with you. I think I like the prospects and Neighbors just a little bit better, but Odunze is another guy I feel like you can't go wrong with.
He's almost, to me, kind of like a Keenan Allen clone. And it's interesting because if you remember Keenan Allen, too, people didn't like him either because of his athletic testing and what have you. And he slid. I want to say he got drafted in the second round. He slid, was kind of a borderline first-round pick. So I think this guy that's not going to happen for Rome. He's going to be a first-round pick unless he absolutely bombs the testing. But I like Rome a lot. I think he's a guy I'm very interested in.
Yeah, I like him as well. And he showed the ability to get open, and he got the vertical speed to get by the defense as well. And we saw that plenty of times, and Michael Penix being able to throw that deep ball to him. So definitely like his prospects.
All right, Joe, who do you got for number 12? Final pick in the first round.
Yeah, final pick of the first round. This was a close call between the guy that you just mentioned, but being this is tight end premium, I'm going to go with Brock Bowers to fill things out here. But Odunze was very close to being the pick here, but I get the edge to Bowers, and I just feel like he's going to come in and show once again that these rookie tight ends and kind of put an end to that narrative, and these guys can get in there and play right away as rookie tight ends here.
What did you just say? Wow, look at that. Things do change. For number 12, for me, I also have tight end Brock Bowers. He is probably the most talented tight end prospect we've seen since Kyle Pitts, and some may argue that he's even better. This guy is going to have an instant impact. I think he's very talented. I almost considered having him ahead of Sam Laporta, but Sam Laporta has just had a historic season, so how could you possibly put Bowers ahead of him? But he's very, very good. So I'm with you. He deserves to be in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you think about it, Joe, that wraps it up. We compared our 2023 versus 2024. I had 6 players in each. Do you know what, off the top of your head, do you know what it ended up being for you?
Yeah, I was actually 6 and 6 as well. I think we just had some different players in there, but for the most part, I think we used similar 12 players, though.
I think it just goes to show, as we wrap up here, this 2024 draft class, I think is going to be a really good one from a Dynasty perspective, and these past 2 are really good. I know you and I have really been focusing in on Dynasty since the 2020 NFL draft. And I would say these past 2, this current draft and the previous in 2023 might be the most talented I've seen from a Dynasty perspective. So it's going to be a very exciting combine and draft season coming up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think especially from the wide receiver position and quarterbacks, I think, we'll see. Not all the quarterbacks pan out. That's the toughest position to get right. But I think just based off of what we're seeing and hearing right now, very deep at the quarterback and wide receiver. Running back position's disappointing, but yeah. And then obviously got Bowers at tight end too, but I think the tight end depth might not be there like it was in past years though.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, that was an historic class this past year, but Powers is definitely one of the top-notch guys. And that does it for our 2023 draft class versus the 2024 draft class. Hopefully you found this video helpful. And we're going to be doing videos all throughout the off season. So fantasy football content does not have to stop. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button, because like I said, we're going to be having videos. We usually do 3 a week. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.